Okay, today we're going to be discussing beverages. We'll go through a bunch of different types of beverages and talk about if and why there would be Kashrus concerns with the different ones. Okay, and our first one is going to be water. Simplest. Try to make it from simplest to more complicated. Simplest is water. So bottled water per se does not have any Kashrus concern. Same is true also, of carbonated water, meaning seltzer. Also, no Kashrus concern as is. But if the water or the seltzer is flavored, then you need Hashgachah for the flavor itself. For example, lots of seltzers are flavored, and hard seltzer is almost always flavored. Hard seltzer also has other kosher-sensitive ingredients, so it needs Hashgachah. Now, most of the other additives that people put into water, such as fluoride or caffeine or minerals, most of them, just about all of them, are innocuous or always balta b'shishim. But there are some additives that might be more sensitive. So if you're not sure, it's worthwhile to check with somebody who knows food ingredients to find that, just in case there happens to be something that's a concern. Now, these water issues become a little more complicated on Pesach for two reasons. First of all, some poskim are of the opinion that carbon dioxide that's made from chametz or kitnias, which is not as unusual as you might think. So some people are of that opinion that that is asur on Pesach. So that would mean is that the carbonated drinks, the carbonated water automatically has that potential issue. And second is, there are some additives that are added to water or to seltzer, which might be chametz, like, for example, sodium citrate. And what happens is like this. When companies that bottle water, sometimes from the bottling to the time that it makes it to the supermarket is very short, which means is it's possible that this chametz ingredient, let's say I mentioned sodium citrate, was added to the water or the seltzer on Pesach. On Pesach, chametz is not bottled even if it's in the tiniest amount, and therefore, and it might show up in the supermarket before Pesach is over. So when a person going to the store in the middle of Pesach might be buying something with a small amount of chametz that was put in on Pesach, which couldn't be bottled. Had it been put in before Pesach, it would be bottled. But this is a possible concern. Excuse me. So now, both the chances of this happening are pretty small. That the ingredient should actually be chametz. Had it been kitnias would be bottled before Pesach. Even on Pesach. But the chances are, it is possible that it could be actually chametz, and that it was put in on Pesach, and by the time when I bought it, it was not bottled on Pesach. Some people for that reason choose to be more cautious and avoid any small chance of any chametz, and would want to buy the stuff with Hashgachah or buy it before Pesach. Okay, that only helps for this second issue. It doesn't help for the carbon dioxide issue, which is of course a problem even if they bought it before Pesach. Okay, now our next group of beverages are fruit juices. Now, the juice of almost all fruits and vegetables is inherently kosher. One exception is grape juice. The grape juice, it needs Hashgachah because grapes that are the juice of grapes that's touched by someone who's not Jewish or poured by somebody is called stam yain. It wouldn't be kosher. So grape juice is an exception, but by and large, all other juices are inherently kosher. Now, what happens is that once you squeeze juice out of a fruit, it's going to spoil in a couple of days unless you do something to keep it from spoiling. So that's obviously not very practical for a manufacturer. So one thing they could do is they could freeze it. And that, if you freeze the juice, there's no kashrus concern. Usually frozen juice is actually concentrated before freezing, and that also doesn't pose a kashrus concern. So frozen juice is okay without Hashgachah, assuming it has no grape juice in it, and it doesn't have anything else, any other kosher sensitive ingredients. If it's just pure juice, then that's okay. But that's one way of making sure the juice doesn't spoil. But much more common is that the juice is pasteurized. Pasteurization means is you heat the juice up for a couple of seconds, and that neutralizes any pathogens that might be in there and prevents spoilage short-term or even sometimes long-term. Now, sometimes pasteurization is so strong that it makes a product which is shelf-stable, meaning it could be on the store, doesn't have to be in refrigeration, like a can of tomato juice or a juice box or a bottle of apple juice. Those items sit on before you open the package. They won't spoil. The pasteurization is done so well that they won't spoil as is. Other times, pasteurization is not as strong, and the juice needs to be refrigerated to keep it from spoiling. Like think about orange juice, that typically it is pasteurized, but typically it needs to be refrigerated to keep it from spoiling. The pasteurization and the refrigeration together. Now, the equipment that people use to pasteurize, either type of the pasteurizations that I mentioned, that equipment is very flexible. And the same equipment that's used to pasteurize juice could also be used for apple juice, could be used for grape juice, or for milk, or even chicken soup, or anything else liquid. The equipment is very flexible, and change the parameters a little this way and all that way, and all of a sudden it could process something else. Which means is that pasteurization potentially compromises the status of a juice. Even if the juice is 100% pure, there's the equipment, the fact that it's made on non-kosher, it's pasteurized, raises concern, and therefore we tell people that they should buy. People should buy juices, even if it's 100% pure fruit juice. It should be bought with Hashgachah. Now, one exception to this is I mentioned orange juice, and I mentioned it beforehand about being something that's pasteurized, and it is pasteurized. But just the way that it's done makes us feel that it's better to buy it with Hashgachah. But if there are no brands that are available with Hashgachah, then it's okay to buy it, assuming it's a refrigerated orange juice, not one that's shelf stable, not one, it has to be one that goes in the refrigerator, and that there are no other ingredients that are kosher sensitive mixed into there. Okay, now let's move on to another category within the juices. I mentioned it in passing, which is grape juice and wine. Now, grape juice and wine, which are not mevushal, if they get touched or poured by someone who is not Jewish, they become asur stam yain. So any product that has grape juice or wine in it automatically needs hashgachah. That means the juice or the wine itself, obviously, but even something else, if it has, mustard that has wine in it, automatically we need hashgachah because of those sensitive ingredients. Not all grape juice and wine is actually called grape juice or wine. Some other names that they might go by are, I'll just mention a bunch, brandy or champagne or cognac or grappa, marc, port, sherry, or vermouth. All of those are items that are made with or from grape juice or wine. And they all need hashgachah because of this concern of that they might be stam yain. Now, while mentioning this, there are many manufacturers who sweeten drinks with what's called white grape juice concentrate, which is a way of getting the sugary portion out of the grape juice. It makes their labels look nicer, makes people feel like they're getting something healthier than just getting sugar. And since it's made from grape juice, it needs hashgachah, as I've been mentioning. And sometimes companies will use a more ambiguous term. Instead of telling you what kind of fruit juice is in something, they'll just say fruit juice. And that makes a person be suspicious, and makes a person you should be more cautious to say, maybe that juice that's in there is grape juice, or maybe sometimes it's grape juice, and that's why they're using this ambiguous term, fruit juice. Now let's move on to a next item, and that is soda. All sodas are made of 5 components, and they are water, carbonation, like carbon dioxide, some kind of a sweetener, flavor, and then some minor ingredients. Okay, what kinds of different minor ingredients? Now, I already told you earlier that water and the carbon dioxide don't pose any kashrus concern. The sugar and the sweeteners are also innocuous, and the minor ingredients are usually either innocuous or bata b'shishim. So of our 5 ingredients, we're covered on 4 of them, and we don't have any serious kashrus concerns with those other 4. So another thing is that because the soda is carbonated, it won't spoil. That in itself affects the pH, and it's not the soda themselves will not spoil. So they don't need to be pasteurized or hot processed at all. Okay, actually, it's just the opposite. Sodas are processed specifically at cold temperatures because it helps keep the carbon dioxide better inside the drink. So 4 of our 5 components don't pose kashrus concern. We don't have to worry about the equipment that it's made on because it isn't processed hot. So what we do have to care about is the flavor. Okay, the difference between one soda and the next has to do with the flavor, and therefore a person can only drink soda that has hashgachah on it. Now, the good news here is that since the flavor is the only concern, so if I know a specific flavor, I don't know, cherry Pepsi, I know that flavor is certified kosher, then you could drink it even if there's no logo on the bottle or the can. That is to say, is there's only going to be a logo on the package if there's hashgacha even on the bottling facility. But but if there's no logo and it is that specific thing, it's Fanta Orange. If Fanta Orange, if the Fanta Orange, the component that creates that flavor is known to be kosher, then you could drink it regardless of which contain, whether the package has a logo or not on it. And in order for people to figure that out, well, how would I know whether Fanta Orange is or is not kosher? So the CRC and others keep lists. They work with they find out from the hashgachas which varieties have hashgachah, which of those flavors have hashgachah. Most of them do, of the big brands, and then they compile a list for people to know which ones they could drink about. Now, this that I've told you about the sodas, about how you can drink them once you know that the flavor is certified, has one significant caveat to it, and that is the flavors that are made by these large producers. I'm thinking like Coke and Pepsi and Dr. Pepper, the three big producers of soda in the United States. They're only certified when they're made in the United States or Canada. If the same exact product, when you pick up, Grape Fanta in Europe or South America, might not have hashgachah, might not be made in the same way or with the same ingredients as are made, or the same suppliers of ingredients as they are in the United States, and therefore the list of approved beverages, of approved sodas, is only reputable in countries that they were made for. So if the list says these are made for the United States, or they're made for the United States and Canada, then that's fine. If it says Mexico, if it says that it is, then it is. But otherwise, you should not assume that just because it's good in one place, that means it's going to be good in a different location. Because in fact, the recipes sometimes are not the same, and even if the recipes are the same, the ingredients may not be the same in one place. The ingredients used over here, which are made sure that they're kosher, might not be the same suppliers in other places like that. Okay, our next category is energy drinks. Energy drinks have many more ingredients than sodas do, and that in itself is a reason why they need hashgachah. They're not as simple or as straightforward as sodas are. Also, in a lot of cases, the energy drinks are not carbonated, and as a result, not always, but in many cases, they need to be pasteurized to keep them from spoiling. And since that pasteurization involves heat, and that equipment is invariably used for other beverages also, therefore you need to have hashgachah to make sure that not only the ingredients were kosher, but that the equipment was kosher when this specific drink that you want was processed. Okay, and now our last section is about alcoholic beverages. I'm going to give just a brief overview of the potential issues that there could be with alcoholic beverages. And before I tell you the potential issues, I just want to throw out that there are two things which complicate the hashgachah or the kashrus of alcoholic beverages. First is that in most cases, there's no legal requirement for the producer to put the ingredients on the package. They don't have to write anything. They just type the name of the product, and they don't have to tell you what's in it. So that sets us back. We can't know what's in there because they don't tell us what's in there. And the second is most of these products don't have hashgachah on them. It's not, there's more and more every day, but not like other types of foods. So it's really hard to know what you could drink. Okay, so now that we know that sort of introduction, there are four potential issues that there could be with alcoholic beverages. The first is like this: the base recipe for a bourbon or tequila, or beer, these kind of things are pretty straightforward. Everybody knows that you make beer from the following ingredients, or bourbon from these ingredients. But companies add all kinds of things to make their product better than the other guys, and reason why you should buy my product instead of that person's product. Traditionally, the most serious concern that there was that there might be stam yain mixed into it, like wine or grape juice mixed into it. But in more recent years, people add all types of things, flavors and lactose. Lactose is the sugar from milk, oysters, clam juice, and who knows what else. People have been adding all types of things into there. And in order to evaluate whether that is or is not a concern with a specific thing, someone really needs to know, what the regulations are for different products and what the common practices in the industry. What are the laws about making sake? What's the practice of people who make scotch? How do they do it? What do? So you have to know what's legal, and you have to know what's actually being done in practice to understand how much of a concern it is for each particular product. The second issue is, even if there are no ingredients, these products, almost all of them, are distilled, which is to say, that's a way of heating up the beverage to concentrate the amount of alcohol that's in there, and the same, and this, or for that matter, might have been even produced also on. And I'm sorry, sometimes the production, the creation also involves heat. And the concern is that same equipment might be used for not just for this specific beverage that's in your hand, but for something else also, which would make the kalim not kosher. This issue is even more serious when we deal with small manufacturers like a craft brewery, where they might make all their products are made in small batches, and they make many different products. They can make 5 different things on the same day. So it goes straight from something that was treif to something that was kosher, and which would compromise the kosher product. Okay. Third issue is that it's a long-standing practice for people who make liquor that they age it for many years to make to improve the taste of the beverage. Now, the aging itself isn't a kashrus concern, but many companies have come to decide that aging their product in a barrel that used to hold wine improves the product. For some reason, they like to use barrels that hold sherry or port; those are types of wine. Or any kinds of wine barrels. Companies have started doing that more and more. Now, there are many different opinions halachically whether that causes a concern. A simple reading of the Gemara and the Practicum would tell us that it should not be a concern. But some of the more recent Practicum have said is maybe there are other ways to understand those makaris, and it could be that the fact that the company specifically wants the wine barrels might affect the dinim that we see in the Gemara, because the people here are specifically trying to get that flavor into their beverage. Okay, now that was our third issue. So the wine barrels, according to some, poses a concern. Now, our last issue is sort of an outgrowth of this third one, and that is if whiskey is aged, whiskey typically is aged for many years, and if the owner of the company is Jewish, then that means every year come Pesach time, he's going to be confronted with all the chametz that he has that he can't get rid of because he needs to hold it for many years. It's not like a cookie company that come Pesach we could sell out all our cookies, because here he needs to hold it for many years. Well, that means that he would have to do a mechiras chametz. He have to sell his chametz to someone who's not Jewish as a way to get it out of his possession. If he doesn't do that, then that liquor is going to become aser forever as chametz of Pesach. Now, that is to say, most of us think of chametz of Pesach as an issue, right after Pesach, of someone who is Jewish who owns something over Pesach. But in this way, something could be chametz over Pesach 6 months later because it's been held over for many years. It was aged, let's say, for 5 years. It means it's for 5 Pesachs. It was owned by someone who's Jewish. If he didn't do bechiras chametz, it'll be aser whenever he chooses to bring it to market. Now, you might think, oh, come on, how many companies are there that are Jewish and then don't do bechiras chametz? Well, it turns out that there are quite a number of prominent whiskey companies that are owned by Jewish people. Some of them are very good about doing bechiras chametz, either for their own religious knowledge, they want to do the right thing, or because they know that they should do that so people will buy it. But others don't. There are large manufacturers who are Jewish owned. They own Jewish people who own these companies, and they do not do bechiras chametz. How would you know which one is or is not? Again, it's someone who needs to understand the industry and have been involved to know which other ones that are safer or more of a concern because of this issue. So because of these different 4 reasons that I mentioned, again, it was just an overview. We weren't going into the details of specific beverages. It's best, the obviously first choice is to buy alcoholic beverages that have Hashgachah. That means there's someone who's overseeing it, who makes sure that everything is done properly. If not, then an alternative is to find a list of some approved items that are someone who is knowledgeable of the industry, has thought through and gone through to decide which items are okay and which ones are not.